What if your drive was a step into the future? A step forward, unleashing a new era where luxury meets innovation. Your journey deserves a car as exceptional as the moments you create. Crafted for your style, driven by your ambition. Genesis GV60, made for you.
Alright, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down a recent commercial I DP'd for Genesis Motors. Yeah, super fun, super fast paced 2-day shoot in Sydney, here where I'm based. So we ended up shooting the project on the Alexa Mini with Panavision G Series anamorphics. The reason for the anamorphics was the location was this really big open space, and we wanted to really show off the width and the scale, with the car just being a little aspect in this huge sort of area. But with anamorphics, you do get that compression of a tighter lens, but you actually retain the width in the frame, and that was just the perfect sort of way to show off this location. Because there was a few technical shots throughout the commercial, it was really important for us to do a previs, which is basically you make the ad before you actually go and shoot it. So whether it's on like a little Sony or an iPhone, just to make sure we didn't waste any time on the actual shoot date. It was as simple as us just going out with my Sony on a little Ronin and just getting these movements, so then on the day we had more time to actually execute and not be figuring those little things out. My grip Scotty actually had the idea of shooting the whole thing, basically nearly the whole thing, on a Fisher dolly and on the Ronin too. So there was no need for, switching between handheld and sticks, and it was just seamlessly pushing the dolly around. Because the ground was so flat, we didn't even really need to lay a lot of track. We could just use the wheels on the dolly. That was a super efficient way of shooting, and I'd say we spent maybe 95% of this whole shoot on the Ronin 2. With myself just on the remote controlling it. Anywhere where you can save 15-20 minutes of rigging and changing the setup, it just goes into shooting, or it gives the director more time to nail movements or performance from the actors. So for this opening shot, we really wanted to create a little bit of depth and shape. Because you have these big pillars, it creates these nice shadows on the ground. So that was just a matter of waiting to the right time, using Sunseeker to know exactly when to shoot this scene, and working the rest of the schedule around that. If you're just shooting straight into a wall, it can really flatten off the image. So I like to always look to the corner of the room and try and shoot that way. It just gives a bit more depth. We also had 2 cars in the foreground to push through, just because whenever you're doing these camera movements, especially like a push in, anything in the foreground that you can push past, it just makes it feel a bit more intentional, and it sells the effect a lot more. So for this shot of the talent hopping in the car, again we had the camera on the dolly, and it was just about matching her movement with the speed of the pullout. So in terms of lighting for this one, we had 2 1200Ds bouncing into an ultra bounce, going through quarter grid diffusion, just to really soften the light off a classic booklight setup. We had just really nice color contrast, and that was working out with wardrobe what color we'd want her to be in. Because the back wall was this nice orange, we had her in blue, so she would just pop against the wall. For this next shot of her walking towards the car, we actually had the light coming from like above and behind her, so we ended up just bouncing and double diffusing the light back onto her directly from the sun. And then this wall on the right hand side was just like a natural bit of negative fill. And then because it was a dolly shot and we were pushing past this back window, we ended up just putting a little bit of negative fill to kill reflections and light hitting that back window, so it didn't take her eye away from the talent. For all the tracking shots, we ended up using a Russian arm, which was actually my first time shooting on one, and having that Russian arm be able to swing around, jib up and down, it just gives you so much more flexibility to just all stay in the car and and just tick off everything in the shot list.
Like you're about to take off in a helicopter or something.
Going to the moon.
The plan with the car shots was to just get as much variety as we could in the time that we had. The location itself wasn't extremely long, so it's like, how can we make this place look much longer than what it actually is? And that was all about combining different focal lengths, shooting wides, shooting tights, all different movements, and then, you know, tracking with the car and then also coming at the car made for some really interesting cuts and sequencing in the edit. So this last shot was actually a bit of a challenge because we were shooting at the end of the day. You're obviously racing the sun, and then having 3 cars was a bit of a challenge as well because all the cars had to be sort of perfectly placed, but then also the camera had to be in the right spot as well. And then every time you would move one, it's like everything was out. Next time I'd have one person in each of the cars, all moving them at the same time, so it wasn't so, you know, chaotic. We wanted the lights in the city to come on, adding a wet down in the foreground just to give reflections of the headlights and the cars and the city lights. It was quite a technical shot because we wanted to jib down from the city down to the cars and then have the headlights so we could have that flare turn into the logo. It was just about getting everything in the right spot and then just continuing to do that move over and over until we got it at the right time of night. Thanks heaps for tuning in. That was super fun, and I want to start doing a heap more of these, trying to keep them nice and tight. I don't want to add all the fluff in, so let me know in the comments if there's anything else you wanted to know, and yeah, thanks for watching.